Hi everyone, welcome to School of Scarlet. I am so happy to have you here today. So today we're going to be talking about spiritual sensitivity. I like to call it spiritual puberty and how that unfolds and awakens what most people call enlightenment, or I call sensuality, or sensitivity to the senses like no other. So are you missing passion in your life? Are you maybe having a dull existence here? You kind of feel like something's missing in your life and you just don't know what that is or how to obtain that. Today I'm going to talk to you about that as well. So spiritual sensitivity or spiritual puberty, if we can begin with that, would be more like in an early stages of our awakening process. Many of you have come to this channel because you've had glimpses or you've had an awakening of some kind, a shift, whichever way you've had it. Something is awakening within you and revealing something that you had not seen before. So you're having clarity in some sense. But yet, are you experiencing things in your body like you're having trouble sleeping, food sensitivities? Maybe now you're becoming more sensitive to being around people, large crowds. Maybe something is changing with you that you can't tolerate certain things any longer. So if this is happening with you, I'm going to suggest that this is what I call spiritual puberty. It's a process that is happening within your body as it matures into the information or the consciousness that is now revealed to it. So the consciousness has always been there, but the body has not been aware of that or has not been working with that level of consciousness this whole time. To switch anything up a little bit requires an adjustment period, does it not? So there will be a huge adjustment period for the body that has been conditioned for however many years old you technically are here on this earth. So that's going to show up in the body. The body's a little slower because it's a little denser. See, we're in a very dense environment here with our bodies. I don't want to go too much into that here, but all to say that our bodies do experience things that kind of keep it off kilter, like make it feel like something's off. But you see, nothing is really off. There was something off before. What's happening now is you're becoming sensitive. You're becoming full. You're becoming connected. You're becoming one with all that is. And to do that, you have to be sensitive. There is no way to be in connection and relationship with all of what is, everything on this existence of earth, if you are not sensitive. You wouldn't be able to communicate with it. You wouldn't be able to tap into its energies. You wouldn't be able to perceive it as you. You wouldn't have these levels of perception if we were working with no sensitivity. So many people have had to cut off their sensitivities because of their lifestyle, things that have happened in their life, events, traumatic events maybe. So we're born into this world, into this environment, and there's no telling what will happen. And everything behind psychology and explaining things in terms of what happens from certain events to people's psychology, there's some truths to that. You know, people want to write off psychology and so many different things when they find spirituality. But we can use some of these things to understand the body. The body and the mind do have its own health, its own intelligence. It's all one, but everything has something to learn about it. So I went to school for psychology. That is what my career has been based around, is psychology, counseling, and teaching. So I'm coming to you with this information, a little bit on the psychology based and a little bit on the spirituality based, to show you what is really truly happening within your body, within your being. There is nothing wrong with you, nothing at all. Many of you think something's wrong with you. You're thinking, what's wrong with my body? What's wrong with my mind? You're going to see doctors, you're going to go see counselors, and no one is finding anything. Why is that? Well, it's because you're coming into wholeness. There is no unhealthiness or unwholeness happening here that any doctor or person could find. You may be experiencing sleeping issues. You may be experiencing maybe even a ton of energy or no energy or irritability, sensitivity, so many different things. But this is all natural because you're becoming sensitive. You're becoming one with all that is. And when you become one with all that is, You're in tune with everything. You're in tune with the trees, you're in tune with the birds, you're in tune with your children, you're in tune with your home, you're in tune with every aspect of yourself. You're in tune with your body, your arms. Everything is its own relationship and connection. And that it becomes very apparent to you as you allow these sensitivities to show themselves to you. So the process of awakening is really a process of allowing. See, you already are awake. You really are already enlightened. There is nothing about you that really needs anything to be added to it. What needs to happen is some releasing of judgments, some releasing of wanting things to be a certain way. We want everything to be perfect. We want our health to be perfect, our bodies to be perfect, our minds to be perfect, our environment to be perfect, everything to be perfect. But you see, when you're in spiritual puberty, it's not perfect. Think back about the times when you were actually going through puberty as we know it, right? Your teenage years. That time, it was a total mess. Although we were coming into who we were becoming more awake and alive into who we are, what we want, and becoming more kind of free and sovereign and wanting that freedom, really exerting these things. At the same time, what was our body doing? Our body was going through all kinds of changes that were very uncomfortable. All of a sudden, we have acne, we have pimples popping up everywhere. Then we have smells happening everywhere that weren't happening before. Hair is growing everywhere. We're having irritability here and there, mood swings, whether you're male or female, you're having mood swings at the time. There's hormones rushing through you. Sometimes you have energy, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're really angry, sometimes you're really happy, energetic. You're going through these ups, highs and lows, ups and downs. And all of this is happening during puberty. And sometimes even you can say silly things and get yourself into all kinds of trouble. And, crazy things will happen during this time of puberty. We've all had our experience of puberty, have we not? So think back to those times. It's similar to what's happening now in the awakening process that you're going through. It's different. Although it could be happening in a different, more positive way, or in the same way as puberty. You may be all of a sudden breaking out all over your face. Or maybe suddenly you have really clear skin and you're really healthy. But there's going to be some kind of change with your body because your body is getting used to a new way of thinking, a new mindset, and a new vibration. So you don't realize that energy is real and that vibrations are real and that your mood, that your heart, all these things are vibrating at certain frequencies. And when you elevate or you raise your consciousness and you're more awake and alert to what is happening and have clarity, your vibration rises and your body has to get used to that. Your body hasn't been used to that. Your body's been working with a different vibration. So it has to kind of, get its footing. It's going to take what appears to be a little bit of time here on this time-space reality. So as you get your footing, you're going to have these changes happening in your body. I call a lot of this nervous system care. So if you're interested in looking that up on YouTube, you will find all kinds of things that will be helpful. I also offer one-on-one sessions. I have a wealth of knowledge and been working in this field for many years. And I also have courses that are tailored specifically to also help and manage these things that happen within the body. Everything that I offer has nervous system care because it's so useful in grounding yourself onto this earth. Once our vibration rises, we become lighter. We're not as dense as we were. And if we don't stay grounded to this earth, to who we are as people, and understand this process of allowing whatever is happening, then we'll become aloof. We will go light. We will just be kind of going into what a lot of people will say is like psychosis and things. So you kind of be losing it is the way I would say it. So you have to keep some grounding, bring some of that in. And that's why I always offer the nervous system care throughout anything when working with people. Because it is very important that you realize that this is a process of maturing from this kind of puberty stage to an embodied state that is totally different than the state you had been living in. It's totally different in its functions and in its results, and it the reality it provides you. It's totally different. So we have to tread lightly here. We have to allow what is happening with us. As we begin to see these changes in us, embrace them. See them as something good. You know, when you're having sensitivities to food and suddenly there's certain foods that you can eat and certain foods that you can't, you're starting to realize there are foods that have a higher vibration. There are foods that are more nutritious. There are foods that give you that energy, that edification, that really spark to yourself. And then there's foods that like make you feel down and like sink you into your stomach and they hurt and things like that. So you'll become more sensitive to this. Whereas before your glimpse or your shift or whatever happened, you were eating all kinds of food, not having a care in the world, and really not feeling anything in your body. You were maybe overweight. You were maybe just depressed, anxious. So you had other things on your mind and your body was in such a shape that you could not feel these things. Now you're becoming sensitive because you love yourself. You love your body. You love who you are. You love this reality. You love what you've seen and discovered about the beauty and the love that is everything. So when you realize that, you love this vessel, you love it so much. And so you don't want to give it that food that makes it feel slowed down, tired, sick. So you get that food out of your house. But that's not a bad thing, is it? That's a good thing. You're coming into wholeness. But so many people will complain and say, I'm having all these trouble with my stomach, with this and that. Now I can't eat this food or that food. Let me tell you, that is actually temporary as you go through spiritual puberty. When you go through spiritual puberty and you reach sensuality, was what I like to call it, or enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. When you reach there, you've gone through all that food sensitivity. You realize what's good for you, not good for you, whatever. When you reach this, it's a totally different ball game. That's what I'm talking about, is that when you go, this is a very complex, nuanced thing. Spiritual puberty is totally different reality than sensuality. You can jump from one to another instantly. But most people, because of the programming of years and years of this, are going to go slow with their bodies because they're going to feel things in their bodies. They may not be able to sleep for a while, or they'll have a ton of energy running through them for a while. There'll be things that'll change, and these things will require you to pay attention to them. So you may not just be able to jump into sensuality right away. But you see, the journey is what's beautiful. It's where you learn, it's where you experience, it's where you understand, it's where you immerse yourself in things and really have those insights that you never had before. So I encourage you to whatever sensitivity you're having, even if it's sleep. I particularly had these sensitivities with sleep. I've had them all. But the sleep one, even that can be so frustrating to people, to be woken up at night and not be able to go back to sleep. This will happen during the awakening process. And it's very frustrating. And you feel like you have a sleep disorder, but yet nothing works. You can take every pill they've given you, but nothing will work. Why? Because you're becoming more sensitive, more awake. Things are happening that you're going to have to introspect, perceive, and be there for. And so sometimes you'll be awake at night. And what I encourage you during this time of spiritual puberty is to embrace it, to see it as something good happening for you. I remember being so frustrated because I had to get up for work the next day and I couldn't go to sleep and I was just at my wit's end. That was one of the worst things I went through is the sleep. But at some point that switched for me and I decided, you know what? When I get awoken at night, I'm going to embrace this. I'm going to have, my time to like meditate or think or whatever I want to do. So if ever I was awoken at night, I would go ahead and take that time for myself. And I wasn't frustrated. I was actually happy. And now I don't get woken up at night very much. I sleep through the night. But when I do, I'm very joyful and happy for those moments of peace, of quiet, that I can be with myself in a way. So I don't see it that way anymore. So it's a sensitivity that now awakens me and I can perceive it as something for me. And I can go into it and kind of meditate or think in my mind. And all of a sudden I'll have insights, I'll have downloads, or I'll feel love. So there was a reason for that awakening at night, but it wasn't to be frustrated. There's more there, but you have to be open to it. You have to allow for those sensitivities to awaken you, what the message is, what the communication is. Everything that we have going on is communication with our own selves, believe it or not. So pay attention to any signs, anything that's happening to you within your body or the external world, whatever's happening. All of this is your period of spiritual puberty. There is a lot that comes into this stage. And if you are interested or need more help on any of this, I do offer, like I say, one-on-one sessions. And in one session, you can pretty much get all the information that you need to go through this thing. So what happens when you go through spiritual puberty? When you do allow this to go through you and happen and just whatever unfolds. That's almost like your surrender period, okay? In that period, it's kind of like you shed away everything that you were. That self is no longer there. The self that you thought you were is no longer there. At the end of that spiritual puberty process, there will no longer be an identified self that cares anything about its, how people perceive it. It's not self-conscious anymore. It's totally shifted now after the spiritual puberty. It's a sort of a surrendering to the divine that's already been within you this whole time. So now you've surrendered to the divine or the heart, and now you've let that self go. Yes, the personality comes back, the preferences come in, but there's no more control there about this identified character that we have to keep up some sort of persona for. Now we're living more in the moment. We're going with the heart. We're trusting this process because we've gone through so much of that puberty. And now we're out on the other end and we realize, okay, we've learned everything we need to learn. Now it's time to live through the heart. It's kind of like going through high school or something like that. And then, or college now it is. And then now you're out on your own. Now you can go and make your life. So you've gone through all that schooling. Now you can go. Now your body, everything has been, kind of revamped or whatever. It has kind of been elevated in a sense, you could say. So at spiritual puberty, when you get to sensuality, we have to consider one thing before we get to that space. And that is, again, going back to grounding. Just making sure that we are not totally into the divine, that we are not totally into what I call the feminine, thinking that that is all that we are just God, that we are just the divine, that we've created some super ego or something like that. That is not the case. Our body, our being is still here, a servant to the divine. So if this body starts acting strange, starts going back to its kind of teenage spiritual puberty years and acting a fool or whatever, or something goes out of whack with it and it needs better nutrition or this or that, you go back and you work with your body. The body is still here as your servant. And at any point in time, you can come in and out of different, what I call levels of consciousness, basically. And you got to pull yourself back into who you truly are, your foundation, who you truly are. Pull yourself back to a seamless connection between who you are as a human and who you are as a divine. It's seamless. It has never been separate, but for purposes of speaking about this and the way we perceive things, it's separate. So now we're merging them, and this is something that happens totally naturally. But when these two are merged, that is where we have that grounded effect, where we have the human side of us and we have the divine side of us. Now, what if we just get rid of all the human side and we don't abide in that anymore? We get rid of our family, we go off to live in some mountain, or we just don't care about our jobs, nothing. We leave everything behind and we abide only in the divine and we go live on the land somewhere. Well, what can happen is basically, I'm trying to look for the word. I would say like, it's kind of like a decline. I think the word is apathy or something like that. But it's basically a decline that's going to happen with your being. You're going to be in a state of being, which is very blissful, very loving, very fun, but there's no structure there. And what will happen is you will lose your structure. You will lose your job, your family, whatever it is that you have already built, most likely you're going to lose it. Now, that's not a bad thing. You can always rebuild, and it could be more aligned with your heart. So don't worry. There is no mistakes here on this earth. But the one thing that we want to remember if we are abiding in these bodies is to stay grounded in some level. We are not totally free of this body. This body is still a servant to the divine. Now, if that's complicated for you, feel free to email me any messages or comment down below any questions that you may have regarding that. I watched an interview. It was actually an old interview of, I think it's Mr. T. I'm not really familiar with this stuff. It was a little bit before my time, but it was really interesting. He was doing an interview and he was just dressed really nicely, had gold chains, all kinds of stuff on. And the lady that was interviewing him was like, you know, you look like you have a lot of money. You have all these gold chains, all this stuff. You're so successful. Why are you wearing these shoes that are all ripped up, taped up with duct tape, and they just look like they should have been thrown away years ago? And Mr. T says, these shoes are what keeps me grounded. Yes, I've done well for myself. I'm successful. I've done all of these things. I have all these gold chains, all this money, all this success, everything. But if I don't keep these shoes on my feet, I will lose my grounding and my footing and who I truly am. He explained that those shoes on his feet were his grandfather's shoes, and then his father's shoes, and now his shoes, and they were all falling apart, a mess. And he continues to duct tape them, and duct tape them, because that is what reminds him of where he came from. Now, if you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, well, those are just stories. On one hand, that's true, but on another hand, that's how we stay grounded, is our stories here on this world, on this earth that we have. Our family, our friends, the things that we have built, the places we live, the things that we enjoy. That is what grounds us to this earth. We don't have to be attached to anything very specifically, but we have to be part of it. We have to be connected to it. And so one of the ways that he would stay connected to the other aspects of him, not just the Mr. T aspects, is to wear those shoes. Now, that may seem a bit extreme to you, but it's just an example to how important sometimes these things are in all kinds of ways, whether or not it's a spiritual thing or even like that, a celebrity thing. When you get to that status that's so high up there that you could lose yourself, what can you do to not lose certain parts of yourself? Because you could lose certain parts of yourself and, like I say, go completely crazy. So on this earth, you are still a human and you still have a body. And you must still have a relationship with that body, no matter how much you feel that you are abiding in the divine. Now, the great reward of following or allowing all of this for the body is to follow. For us, everything is to allow everything to happen. If we allow, surrender, all these things to the heart, what ends up happening is we experience a level of sensitivity in our own being that leads to sensuality. And sensuality, my friend, is like no other. Everything on this earth is actually worshiping and wanting to be part of sensuality. All of the colors that you see, all the pretty birds, do you know why they have beautiful colors? Because they're attracting. It's all about receiving, giving, receiving, attracting. All of that is sensuality. It's the play of love, the play of the feminine and the masculine, okay? The chaser, the runner, all of that is going on. This is a play of life that recurs in everything. So we have beautiful birds that are different colors. What do birds sing? Well, they sing for a lot of reasons, but a lot of the times they also sing to attract a mate, okay? They attract to have passion, to have song, to have celebration for the sunrise, sunset, things like that. That's sensuality, okay? Why do we have beautiful music? Why do we have all these love songs or even any kind of music? Sensuality, expression of the senses. expression of your senses if you're the creator, or if you're the receiver of listening to that music, you're experiencing the emotions through your own being. That person wrote those lyrics, but you're experiencing them with your own flavor. That's sensuality. What about movies? What are movies usually about? You know, they have a lot of polarity. Most of them have love, have action, have, you know, a journey. Sensuality. That's all that's happening here. Okay. What's happening with art? What's happening with anything that we go out in the world and see? Cars, anything. It's all sensuality. It's all beautiful because it's there to attract. Why do men have all of these cars, these beautiful cars? Well, they love them, right? Yeah. But also, they attract people. They attract women. They're beautiful. It's sensuality. It's very sensual. Okay? Everything you experience is sensual. Food. Why do we eat food? Well, we eat it for nutrition. Everything has kind of its basic value, but it also has its sensual, deeper, more luscious value. Well, we eat food for nutrition, but what else can we get from food? We can get pleasure. We can feel and we can taste those foods, the mixtures, the combinations, you could say, of the different flavors, the, you know, different exotic flavors that we get to experience from all kinds of different cuisine that's out there. That's sensuality. Now, I could go on and on with this list. You know that I could, and you could too if you really start doing that. But how can you experience sensuality when you're in resistance? When you don't want to be sensitive, or you deem the sensitive to be a negative or bad thing? You can't. You cannot experience sensuality if you're resisting it. And so many people believe that pleasures or sensuality or anything like that is a sin. What a shame. What a shame. Is it a sin that you were born into this world? Because you came from sex. You came from passion, my friend. Okay? Is it a sin to create art, to do anything out here? All of that is pleasure. All of that is sensuality. Anything that you do, unless you're just, you know, not really just writing on a book or something like that, is sensuality. There will be sensuality, and even writing is so sensual. I don't really think you can escape sensuality, really. It's running through everything. But you can certainly be in resistance to it, and that's what creates unhappiness, because there is sensuality in everything. Every time you see or experience something that you feel is too much pleasure, or is gluttonous, or is just too much for you, you resist. You resist it. You don't feel worthy of it. You don't feel that you can have it. You feel that if you have it, you're going to be a sinner. It's not true. You're not a sinner for enjoying life. You're not a sinner for enjoying life. Whoever told you that was sorely mistaken and probably very unhappy. It's time to live life. It's time to immerse yourself in life. Now, again, it's not to lose yourself. I mentioned grounding. But don't block yourself or resist sensuality. Don't block yourself or resist the pleasures of life. And if you're doing this, I really encourage you to take out a journal and begin to write a prompt at the top. Why do I resist pleasure? And you can even ask and why, and see what comes up for you. See what you write. What happens? Many of us have programs where we weren't allowed to have pleasure. Pleasure was bad in our homes growing up. So we run a program within our bodies that we have not released. And that's probably why. So if you're experiencing that, journal about that. Another thing I do lately is I'm writing more, or even I have written a book about sensuality, but I'm writing more, and I'm also doing videos more about sensuality and about sex. And sometimes I'll put that in the titles. And it's not to attract men or, you know, some clickbaity thing. It's truly to transmute sex. So many people get triggered just by the word in there. And most of the times, if you watch my videos are not about that at all. They're about what I'm talking about here in this video. But people get so triggered and hung up and they can't handle that word. Why? Why can't they handle it? They have an aversion to pleasure and sensuality. So if you have an aversion to sex, if there is a part of you that every time you see sex, like written in a title, or someone is being sexual in some way or dressing a little bit more open than you are or something like that, if that is rubbing you the wrong way, journal about that. Why? Everything is beautiful, everything is love, and everything is allowed here on this earth. When we judge something externally or within us, it creates a shadow for us in our reality, no one else's. See, you're creating your own reality by what you're doing and thinking and judging and all of those things. So it doesn't really matter what's happening for someone else. It's, we think, oh, well, they shouldn't be dressing like that. They're going to cause problems for kids or whoever. No. Focus on yourself. Stay in your own lane. As soon as you transmute that, you won't see these things in your reality. Everything will be beautiful and aligned with what you are. But so long as you resist it, you will see it and it will be ugly and you will call it ugly. As long as you allow it, it will transmute and it will show up as beauty, as love, and you will see how it's beauty and love and how you were missing that the whole time. This is all about clarity. We have a very blinded, very kind of sick, perverse way of seeing things. And the truth of life is that this is heaven on earth. And the clarity that we get from allowing, from going through spiritual purity, from just being, is to see beauty and love in everything and to experience heaven on earth. But the only way to do that is to drop those judgments and begin allowing. Allowing. What does allowing mean? Is allowing resisting, pointing it's bad, shunning it, saying that person is bad because they put that in their title. That person is bad because they did that. If we do that, we're doing that to ourselves. It's not even to that other person at all. We're only doing it to ourselves. We are projecting at all times. That's our reality, is a projection. So begin to accept today, because I know you're wonderful, and I know that all of these things within you that sometimes you judge about yourself are actually beautiful things. So begin to allow a little bit here and there of these things you've been hiding, these shadows. Let them come out a little bit. Let them play. Let them see. Let yourself go through that so that you can see if you can trust yourself to surrender to the heart and all that is. Because the old way of doing things is trying to be perfect, trying to keep everything in, trying to judge, trying to keep rules so that we're contained in this way. But the way things are going now, and the way that earth, reality, everything is happening, if you're not seeing it around you, just open up the TV, open up your eyes, go outside, go to the mall, go look around. We're coming into a different energy here of allowing, of freeness, of expression, of authenticity. Whether you like the way these beings are being or not, this is a time for freedom. And this is what's going to be unfolding here. And if you're so rigid and judgmental and just in this box and this is how it needs to be, you're going to have a horrible time. You're going to be very deeply unhappy. So allow what needs to be released to release within you, and accept others as they are. That's love. So spiritual puberty is a natural process that happens with us, usually after a glimpse, usually after a shift or clarity of some kind that has come into our consciousness. And it kind of shakes us up, kind of makes us not feel very good. And sometimes that we can retreat back into our old selves, or we can push on forward until, the body and all of these things have really shown us so much that we go into this state of surrendering, of saying, okay, I allow this. This is actually something good for me. I may be so sensitive to my stomach and I'm sensitive to this and that. Now I can't go here or there. But look, my reality is starting to shape to the things that I actually align with. And so then you can relax and surrender and know that your heart is taking you on the exact perfect ride of your life, the exact perfect aligned place that you need to be. And so you begin to trust more, and that's where that shift happens, where you align with the heart. And you trust every next step. As scary as it may seem, you go for it. You go for it. You go for it, and you go for it. And it's pretty scary sometimes to the body, because the body's not used to going for it. It's used to coming up with excuses. I'm too sick. It's not the right time. I have this issue. I have to take care of these people. I don't have this. Comes up with every single excuse it can. But the heart says, no, try it. Do it. Let's go. And it doesn't come up with any excuses, not one. And before you know it, you're experiencing sensuality in all of your life, every area of your life. With everything that you do, you feel like you're in this sensual nature with it. You're in a flow with it. You're in communion with it. You're in relationship with it. You understand it. So this video was to talk about spiritual puberty and how that transforms into sensuality. If this video was helpful to you, please share it with others. Give me a comment or a like down below. It's a simple and free way that you can help support my channel. So please, if you'd like to do that, please do so. I also offer one-on-one sessions and courses. I have everything listed in my description and in the comments as well. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all.